Would you like to be the President of the United States?
I really don't believe I would run it, but I would like to see somebody as the President who could do the job, and there are very capable people in this country.
Why wouldn't you dedicate yourself to public service?
Because I think it's a very mean life. I would love and I would dedicate my life to this country, but I see it as being a mean life, and I also see it as somebody with strong views and somebody with the kind of views that are maybe a little bit unpopular, which may be right, but may be unpopular, wouldn't necessarily have a chance of getting elected against somebody with no great brain but a big smile.
I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, you know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. But I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not. I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing: this country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage. It wouldn't be the way it's been, believe me.
But you might be classified as an Eastern Republican. Fair?
Well, I guess you could say that, yes.
Which means kind of a Rockefeller, Chase Manhattan Republican?
I never thought of it in those terms.
How do you define it? Are you a Bush Republican?
No, I think I'm really, the people that I do best with are the people that drive the taxis. You know, wealthy people don't like me because I'm competing against them all the time, and they don't like me, and I like to win. The fact is, I go down the streets of New York, and the people that really like me are the taxi drivers and the workers, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I really get a great response.
Why are you a Republican?
I have no idea. I mean, I am a Republican because I just believe in certain principles of the Republican Party.
You have flirted with the idea of politics. Now you're here at your first national convention. Does that get you interested in possibly making the plunge?
Now you have to tell me something. Who told you I flirted?
Well,
I didn't know that I flirted with.
Well, you took out full-page ads in the New York Times to talk about your foreign policy. Some people would say...
I do feel very strongly about the country. I love the country.
I know from a common sense financial standpoint that something has to burst. When a country is losing billions and billions and billions of dollars a year, and when other countries are making hundreds of billions of dollars, something is going to burst, and it's going to start here. I know it. It's a question of when.
Would you really like to take over and run the country as you have run your organization?
I would much prefer that somebody else do it. I just don't know if the somebody else is there. I don't know if we have the kind of advocate that you need. We need major surgery. This country needs major surgery.
Are you the surgeon?
I think I do a fantastic job, but I really would prefer not doing it. I hope that somebody comes along who can be an advocate, and I think that somebody will be so popular,
But you haven't seen it.
He or she will be the most, but I don't see it now. I wish that person were there.
I have never understood how somebody throughout this country didn't sue the United States government and have that overturned. I mean, you had people, investors, investing over a 10-year period for under a set of conditions. The rules were changed for the government, but they weren't changed for us. I mean, it was an incredible circumstance that happened. They changed the rules on taxes. I mean, you have some incredible situations where people guaranteed personally a stream of payments to be paid over a 10-year period based on a stream of tax benefits for perhaps a very good job, like a low-income housing development. Nothing wrong with that, a very positive thing. And after 2 years, they got wiped out with the taxes, and yet they still owed all of this money. And many of these people, most of these people, had to declare bankruptcy. They couldn't pay it.
Well, I just hate what's happened to this country. We've gone to a country that's no longer respected. We're in a war that we should have never, and by the way, I'm worse than any hawk there is in terms of military and in terms of defending ourselves. But Saddam Hussein didn't knock down the World Trade Center. He had nothing to do with it. And there were no weapons of mass destruction. You know, nobody talks about the soldiers that are coming back with no arms and no legs. And I saw at Mar-a-Lago on Mondays, I make Mar-a-Lago my club that you know about.
In Palm Beach.
I make that twice now. On a Monday, I let returning Iraqi injured soldiers come to the premises. The most beautiful people I've ever seen, but they're missing arms and legs. They're with their wives, sometimes they're with their girlfriends, and the tears are coming down the faces of these people.
The head of 3M
said that President Obama is anti-business. Do you get the same feeling that he does?
I don't see him necessarily as anti-business. I think that he hasn't dealt with the people that you've dealt with and that I've dealt with. I deal with China as an example a lot. It is never easy. I just think it's ridiculous that we allow them to do what they're doing to this country with the manipulation of the currency that you write about and all of the other things that they do. And frankly, if I were them and if I could get away with it, I'd take my hat off to them, frankly. They do get away with it. The good news, Steve, our product is much better, but with the manipulation of their currency, it's very, very, very hard for our companies to compete.
Any politician do you think has the pulse? Anyone running for president has the pulse of what you know about the economy?
Well, the biggest problem is something I never hear about. I told you about it once. Every time they lower interest rates, the cartel, because I call it a cartel, right, the illegal monopoly raises oil prices, okay? So what happens is every time interest rates go down, oil prices go up, and it's the same number. I mean, practically the same money. So they lower it, they raise it. They lower it, they raise it. Now you have oil that's close to 100, going to be over 100, and nobody in this country calls and says, get that damn oil price down. You get it down. But I have to tell you that our country is in serious, serious trouble. We owe $17 trillion. We have deficits that nobody can even comprehend. China, which I've been talking about for the last 5 years, they just devalued their currency. And the reason they did it, and everybody was surprised by it, was because our leadership is so weak and so pathetic that they can get away with it. And believe me, they're taking our jobs, and they're taking them big league. You look at other countries, they're all doing the same thing. They have no respect for our leader, and frankly, they have no respect any longer for our great country. And it's so simple to solve. What we need is a strong economy. What we need is jobs. Now you look at what's going on with Afghanistan. So they make a deal, and I'm not advocating stay, because frankly, I want to build this country. I want to build these schools. I don't want to build a school in Afghanistan, a road going to the school, watch it get built up and then blown up 4 times, and they keep rebuilding and rebuilding. And you go to Brooklyn, New York, and you can't have schools. You go to Iowa, you can't. You go to wherever you go, and you can't have schools. Because we don't have any money, because we're spending it in other places where, frankly, they don't want us, and I don't want them. And it's amazing. Our country is in serious trouble. We don't have victories anymore. The U.S. has become a dumping ground for everybody else's problem. We spent $2 trillion in Iraq. $2 trillion. We lost thousands of lives, and we have nothing. We can't even go there. We have nothing. Last quarter, it was just announced, our gross domestic product, a sign of strength, right? But not for us. It was below zero. Who ever heard of this? And our real unemployment is anywhere from 18 to 20%. Don't believe the 5.6. Don't believe it. Our enemies are getting stronger and stronger by the day, and we as a country are getting weaker. So I've watched the politicians. I've dealt with them all my life. They will never make America great again. They don't even have a chance. They're controlled fully by the lobbyists, by the donors, and by the special interests. We need a leader that can bring back our jobs, can bring back our manufacturing, can bring back our military, can take care of our vets. Our vets have been abandoned. We need somebody that can take the brand of the United States and make it great again. I will tell you, I love my life. I have a wonderful family. They're saying, Dad, you're going to do something that's going to be so tough. You know, all of my life I've heard that a truly successful person, a really, really successful person, and even modestly successful, cannot run for public office. Just can't happen. And yet that's the kind of mindset that you need to make this country great again. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.
Today, the president continues to play to the most extreme factions of his political base.
This is the president not just doubling, tripling, quadrupling down at this point on these culture wars.
He says he's not a bigot. He says that he's the least racist person you've ever met in your life.
He's told me that like three or four times in interviews.
Great. Yeah. We only know what you show.
I worked in the mainstream media for many, many years, and my goal as a mainstream media journalist, which is the goal of any mainstream media journalist, is not only to get the biggest story, but the more salacious story on a public figure, a celebrity, or a politician, the better the story is going to do. And the better your story does, that's how you move your way up the ladder in the field of journalism. I had the privilege of covering Donald Trump. I covered him and his show, The Apprentice, and I also had the privilege to cover him and his family members. Over the years, I would get sometimes tips about President Trump that were salacious, and they were good if they were true. Every tip that I looked into that had any dirt didn't turn out to be true. And I was bummed because that would have elevated my career. A big front page cover story on Donald Trump would have been a huge feather in my cap. So over the years covering President Trump, I wasn't really able to get any dirt on this man. I found the opposite about him to be true, which is that he's actually not a playboy billionaire. He's not a degenerate. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do alcohol. And he's actually a very good stand-up guy who has a big heart, who has done a lot of charity for many people over the years. We're living in unprecedented times right now, and I'm doing this video based off of an article I wrote in 2016 to remind the world who President Trump really is. Let me tell you what Donald Trump has done that's so unthinkable. President Trump will go through the newspaper and read stories about people who are dealing with tragedies. And he will clip out those stories and he will ask a secretary to find these people and he will help them. In 1986, Trump prevented the foreclosure of Annabelle Hill's family farm after her husband committed suicide. Trump was so moved by this story that he called the auction and stopped the sale of her home and gave her money so she wouldn't have to lose her home. Those are the kinds of things that Trump has a history of doing for many, many, many years. But the mainstream media will never tell you any of these stories. So how many times have we heard from the mainstream media that Trump's anti-Semitic and he hates Jews? Well, let me tell you a story about something he did for a sick little Orthodox Jewish boy. In 1988, a commercial airline refused to fly Andrew 10, a sick Orthodox Jewish child with a rare illness, across the country to get medical care because he had to travel with an elaborate life support system. His parents contacted President Trump for help, and what did he do? He did not hesitate to send his plane to Los Angeles to take this little boy across the country to New York so he could get the medical care that he needed. In 2014, Trump gave $25,000 to Sergeant Andrew Tamaresi after he spent 7 months in a Mexican jail for accidentally crossing the US-Mexico border. President Barack Obama at the time couldn't even be bothered to make a phone call to get this troubled Marine released. It was President Trump that came to the rescue. Another horror story. In 2000, President Trump just happened to be watching the Maury Povich show. On this episode, it featured a girl that was suffering with brittle bone disease.
Hi, Megan. My name's Donald, and you probably don't know me, but I was watching Maury's show the other day, and I must tell you, you really hit me right here. I think you are so beautiful, and both inside and out. I had a little something, a little gift that I gave to Maury, who's a friend of mine.
He wants you and your mom to have a very special check. And when we talk about Donald Trump, when he gives out checks, we're not talking chump change here.
Hi, Donald. Good. I really wanted to say thank you very much. Bye. I told him that I thanked him, and he said, well, you're very welcome, and he told me to keep up the good work.
Another great story that you'll never hear in the mainstream media happened in 1995.
And I just want to know if the story is true or not. You were traveling to Atlantic City, and your limo broke down. Husband and wife pulled up behind, and the husband basically said, I'm going to help him out. So he helped out the limousine, and a week later, the husband and wife received the deed to their house paid off. Was that a true story?
It's true. It's true.
It's awesome. That just goes to show what type of man he is. A great man.
Here's another one. In 2016, Melissa Kunzen-Young attended a Trump rally and tearfully thanked Trump for changing her life. She found herself struggling with an incurable illness, and during her darkest days, she explained that she received a handwritten letter from Trump telling her she's the bravest woman I know. She said that the opportunities that Trump gave her ultimately provided her son with a full ride to college. Did you know that in 1996, President Trump filed a lawsuit against the city of Palm Beach for discriminating against his Mar-a-Lago club because his club allowed Jews and blacks? Still think he's racist? Lynn Patton, a black female executive for the Trump Organization, released a statement in 2016 defending her boss against accusation that he's a racist and a bigot. She tearfully revealed how she struggled with substance abuse and addiction for years. Instead of kicking her to the curb, she said the Trump Organization and his entire family loyally stood by her through immensely difficult times. In 2008, American Idol superstar Jennifer Hudson's family members were tragically murdered in Chicago. When President Trump found out about this, he reached out to her and told her that he will put her up in his Trump Tower hotel and cover all the costs. And not only did he do that, he actually provided extra security for her and her family during this difficult time. I would encourage you to be very cautious of anything that the mainstream media puts out. Ask yourself, do you really think that President Trump is a racist? Do you really think that so many conservatives that support Trump are racist? Do you really think that race is that big of an issue? Or is this an issue that's being driven by the mainstream media to divide us? I encourage you to use discernment and listen to your heart and think about these things and ignore the fake news.
Every child is a precious gift. America's future will be filled with goodness, peace, joy, dignity, and life for every child of God. Let us hold our loved ones close. Let us pray for healing and for peace. And let us come together as one nation to wipe away the tears and strive for a much better tomorrow.
We are one nation, and their pain is our pain.
We remember when you first were giving your acceptance speech in the nomination of the GOP convention, you said at that time that 1 year from now, when I take over the White House, I am going to reestablish the rule of law in this country. And you've done that, Mr. President, and we thank you for that very, very much. You've done more in less than 2 years in supporting law enforcement and dealing with this illegal immigration problem that we've been asking for solutions on for 20 years.
At this moment, your brothers and sisters in arms are posted around the globe, fighting our enemies and standing watch to protect our nation. They're fighting for us. We are thanking them, praying for them, and saluting them for their selfless sacrifice. There could be no greater privilege than to serve as your commander-in-chief. I pledge my unwavering support for you, for your families, and your missions. I will always have your back.
I personally met with President Trump, spent about 3 or 4 minutes with him one-on-one. A very compassionate man, a very sincere man. He asked me deep questions about the briefing process. This was the first loss on his watch that he's had to deal with. She wanted to do that to honor her husband and the sacrifice that he made.
It is up to us to rededicate ourselves to the traditions and wisdom of our founders. It's about what kind of a nation we're going to be and what kind of a country our children will inherit. It is up to us to reclaim our heritage of equal and impartial justice.
I love this guy right here. Let me give this guy a hug right here. I love this guy right here. Yeah, amen. Yes.
That's really nice.
Mr. President, I have to say that you're living up to everything I thought you would. You're one heck of a leader. Look at all the things that he's been able to get done by sheer will in many ways. And we're all benefiting from it. And I just hope that we all get behind him every way we can, and we'll get this country turned around in ways that will benefit the whole world. But above all, benefit our people and bring us all to a realization of how really great America really is. God loves this country. We all know it. We wouldn't be where we are without him. And we're going to make this the greatest presidency that we've seen ever.
Just think for a moment of how blessed you are living in this amazing country surrounded by people who you love and care about so much. Then ask yourself, with all of those blessings, what will you give back to this country and indeed to the world? What imprint will you leave in the sands of history? What will future Americans say we did in our brief time right here on Earth? Did we take risks? Did we dare to defy expectations?